not anti-technology. We love technology. But we have to understand it's creating tremendous complexity. Social media has become just this thing that's overwhelming to so many of us, right? And poor grandma, she got on social media and realized she's the only deer hunter who hasn't shot a good buck this season, right? So things on social media just go nuts, right? It just goes crazy. We have to talk about this socially acceptable addiction of pornography, and it cannot be. These kids these days, what are they doing? I just had a parent contact me yesterday. They attend a private Catholic school here in the metro. 32 7th grade boys actively sharing pornography back and forth between themselves. This parent's reaching out, what in the world can I do? See, that opening image that we start with this farm door, we have to understand that this is no longer the proper way. We have to have big picture perspective. So, a little reality check on the socially acceptable addiction of pornography. Pornhub is one of tens of thousands of porn sites. And so, by their own data analysis in the year 2018, that 33.5 billion visits in 1 year. That is a growth rate for their industry of 5 billion from 2017. So what does that look like in a minute? Well, I don't care, take your pick. In 1 minute, this is that level of activity. By their own analytics, the searches that defined porn search, just through one porn site, was number 1, Stormy Daniels. Okay, duh. We understand that. But number 2 is Fortnite. Now, there's nothing wrong with Fortnite in and of itself. Remember, technology is not the enemy, but technology is creating tremendous complexities in the lives of our students and our families. And it's time for us to take that farm door picture and quit looking through the people when there's this big glass we can look through. I grew up in the country of India as a missionary kid. India today has 1.2 billion people. The United States, I know our last census 325 million-ish, give or take a couple, I don't care. But look at the discrepancy in porn usage. And the majority of porn use today is through cell phones. So here we are, parents. Okay, here we are. Okay, remember the image I want you to have locked in your brain? Here's parents. I got to give my kid a cell phone to keep him what? Safer. So here's little Annie, and she, okay, I get it. She's getting off the bus from cross country, headed to marching band practice. I get it. Here's what kids are saying. I gotta have a cell phone to stay in touch with my friends. She heard Doug talk in the initial session. I could have stood up and yelled hallelujah. When he started talking about this aspect of the issue phones are creating in our culture today. They in and of themselves are not evil, but the National Center of Sexual Exploitation out of Washington, D.C. now tells us the average age of first-time exposure to pornography, it was at their conference the week before Father's Day, is now around the age of 8. And guess what is now becoming a closer average of age when kids are really pressuring their parents to get them phones? It's around the age of 8 and 9. So what all these socially acceptable addictions have in common, they all have a dopamine release in the brain, potentially become chemically addictive. And so the problem is in 2018, Cambridge came up with a word of the year, and it was nomophobia. Have you ever pulled out of your driveway, and you got 0.2 of a mile down the road, and all of a sudden you're like, because why? Because this is on the charger at home. It's not with me. How am I going to get through that? I get it. Listen, in a nonprofit world I work in, I get it. This is an amazing tool. This, in and of itself, is not evil. But it's creating some tremendous complexities. So as an organization, we exist to combat what we call domestic minor sex trafficking, defined as commercial sexual exploitation of a minor child who is a U.S. citizen. Really what we're combating is children being raped for profit. That's what I do as an organization, and here's all I want you to really kind of process today. Because I'm not here to talk to you about sex trafficking of children, I'm here to talk to you about 3 words. And if you will get this image in your mind of, I've got to get beyond this guy looking out of a farm door image, and look through the door who's knocking, rather than a people, and understand 3 words. We're dealing with the exploitation of vulnerability in our kids. So you don't have to be an expert in technology. I need you to be an expert in your own kid and the kids within your circle of influence that you care about desperately. Because here's the thing, anything and everything we can do to identify a vulnerability in a student earlier, we have a chance of helping that vulnerability not lead to the next vulnerability. That can then lead to the next vulnerability, that in patterns continue then lead to another vulnerability that now can lead to some kind of exploitation that now may lead to increasingly, because of all the socially acceptable addictions I just threw at you with the fire hose, now some form of sexual exploitation that can now lead increasingly into the world of what we call criminal element of domestic minor sex trafficking. The answer for this lies within the reality that if we will understand the exploitation of vulnerability and process this, and understand that with our kids there are always societal and environmental individual risk factors, it unpacks like this. One of our sweet spots, we go do school assemblies. At the end of every assembly, we give kids a survey. So I was recently, so think it through, I was at an urban downtown Kansas City high school. So think through the kids where they're raised, they're in that background, their worldview, their picture of the world, and their societal individual risk factors. The survey that we gave them, this is what we found from the students there. 52% of the students in that school said, I've met a complete stranger in person. I first established a relationship with online. Let that sink in. And am active in sending nudes of myself through social media, and 90% engaged with pornography. So think it through. Exploitation of vulnerability. Those are tremendous vulnerabilities in our kids. These kids these days know. We just unpacked all the socially acceptable addictions that we as adults are responsible for. We own that. I got in my car and I drove 2.5 hours south to a tiny little community in Missouri. When I pulled into the town, rural community, the population welcome said population 332. So I took a picture of downtown. You literally could pick it up and drop it on the football field of the school where I just come from. I want you to think through now, very rural Missouri, the students within this understanding of the exploitation of vulnerability, their societal, environmental, individual risk factors. Completely different than urban downtown Kansas City. Yet 48% of those students filled out the survey in the same way, and 82% engaged with pornography. What was the common denominator? The common denominator was the fact that there is an increasing level of anticipation at younger and younger ages that kids are going to participate in this, and sometimes we as adults don't understand the role that we play. And so my appeal is that let's quit looking through this peephole and open both eyes and potentially look through the big barn door. What kind of an issue are we dealing with in the metro? In 2009, there was a sting operation. They ran online advertisements. There were no actual kids being harmed. They just simply advertised that there were young girls for sex. We had 500 phone calls in the first 24 hours. Children's Mercy Hospital, as you know, famous hospital, we are now ranked in the top 5% in the entire nation for sexual assault victims. That's comparing us to LA and New York. Well, wait a minute, I thought we were like God's country out here, like flyover country, like we're the belt buckle of the Bible Belt, right? I mean, how can this be happening? Well, our sexual assault nurses tell us that on average they're seeing 1 to 2 victims per day. That means the assault happened within 5 days or less, and they've been seen by a medical professional. So last week I did a little mini tour through communities in rural Kansas. I was Dodge City and Cimarron and Hill City and Concordia. I got done with a student presentation, and I actually had an adult female teacher come up to me at the end in tears, realizing years later that she was a victim of domestic minor sex trafficking and didn't realize it and process it until she sat through a high school presentation on social media and the role of sexual exploitation in kids' lives. Arizona State University conducted a study, 15 cities across America. Here in Kansas City, Missouri, in 2013, they found 14.5% of the male population was not online viewing pornography. They're online looking to potentially purchase sex from mostly minors. 87% of the phone numbers were local. So we've got a demand issue. So if it's all about 3 words, the exploitation of vulnerability, I want to just anecdotally give you some insight into where kids are most vulnerable. And I don't want you to be scared of your phone. I don't want you to be scared of your kids being online. But I do want you to say this: I desperately need you to open your eyes and quit looking through the people. So anecdotally, let me just share some things with you. At the end, some of you have already texted Be Alert to 99,000. There is this stack of information that you're going to get. Included in that are a lot of these apps I'm going to talk about. So again, feel free to take pictures, but don't feel like you need to give yourself carpal tunnel taking notes. because I've already provided for you, okay? I got to get a kid a cell phone to keep them safer. And the kids are saying, I got to have all these apps to stay in touch with my friends. Okay, so let's open our worldview and let's look at it through this understanding, the exploitation of vulnerability. Snapchat is like the introductory app for most kids. I got done with a school assembly. A 14-year-old boy came to me and said, I need to talk to you. And I said, okay, I'm a mandated reporter, so whatever you think through what you're going to tell me. He said, I don't care, I need freedom. So the short version of the story, he's bringing girls home from school, showing them pornography. He's having them act it out. And remember, it's about 3 words, the exploitation of vulnerability. I don't know who the girls were or the vulnerabilities in their lives to cause them to do this. But what he then told them is, I haven't told them. I've got 3 cameras in the room set up. I'm recording them, selling it on Snapchat for Snap Cash, $5 a download. Now, Snapchat no longer has Snap Cash. He was making thousands of dollars. I now have a young 14-year-old boy who is by federal law child pornographer. The last school assemblies I did, the first week of May, was in Smithville, not too far from here. Literally during the assembly, I had kids come up to the end, and the porn bots are going crazy right now through Snapchat and Instagram and text messages. I had 32 kids come to me during one high school assembly. During the assembly, their phones were going off. They were receiving messages through porn bots. The porn industry is targeting and baiting our kids. And so this is an example that came through a young lady's phone that she received on Snapchat or Instagram. This one was through a text message. They weren't even on their phones during the assembly. These were just received completely anonymously. You may be aware of this chat app, Omegle. Increasingly, our grandparents are raising their kids. So imagine the horror when an 87-year-old grandma comes to me at the end of a training and says she went down the basement and then recently adopted their 6-year-old daughter and sees her sitting in a recliner with no clothes on in front of a camera, and on the other end is a male predator with no clothes on video chat app. Listen, grandma's struggling how to run the remote, let alone deal with a situation like this. Kick Messenger. So I did cybercrimes training. I became JamieJones123gmail.com. I became a 12-year-old girl, just like that. You can be anybody online. So our kids, I know what I'm doing. Yeah, actually you don't. But we're going to parent you through that. I became JamieJones123gmail.com. No geographical location, no indication of where I live, no picture, nothing. 7 seconds. Hey girl, what you doing? I don't respond. 17 seconds later, what you doing? I'm bored. I'm officially scared of the laptop. Called the cybercrimes guy over, he said, here's the pattern. You're going to get another message within 5 to 10 minutes. He was right, he was wrong. It took 21 seconds. 3 sentences of pure sexual filth and vulgarity with images attached to what he wanted to do to me as a 12-year-old girl. You don't type that fast. That's a copy-paste looking for kids coming online through new apps. That's a predatory behavior. I got to give my kid a cell phone and keep him safer. Okay. Kids say, I gotta have these apps to stay in touch with my friends. So when a 2nd grade girl comes to me at the end of an elementary school presentation, tells me she has a Tinder account because mom didn't talk to her, and she is talking to 17 adult men through Tinder, which is no longer even an adult dating app. It's an adult sexual hookup app. And a 2nd grade girl is communicating with 17 adult men. Imagine through this app, where you swipe and you go down, the horror last week when I was in a rural community in Kansas, and a 12th grade girl comes up and says, I was using this app trying to connect with someone, and I connected with my brother who was in 5th grade. Okay, that's not just awkward. That's just like, see, okay. So Scout, this is a flirting app literally designed to meet new people. So there's a young lady in the metro, 17 years old, just a few weeks ago, thought she connected to an amazing guy. He convinced her to take her clothes off, send a bunch of pictures. He started threatening her. She didn't send more. Come to find out, he's not really that 17-year-old boy who lives in the same community. We found he's a 22-year-old male sexual predator, lives in Wisconsin. Meet me as an app. Okay, so there's 3 words I want you to think through. All these apps. It's the exploitation of vulnerability, and anything and everything we can do in our students to lessen the vulnerability sooner than later is helping. And so if social media and apps in the gaming world is so important to our kids, then okay, what are we going to think about an app that literally uses GPS, and now we've got kids maybe at home with 2 hours of unsupervised time after school? So Blender, you may know about this. This is literally a flirting app. So this is where kids, they rate each other as hot or not hot. Like, post your pic, you're hot, you're not hot. So there's another app like it called 3Ender. This is for couples looking for a young third. And Grindr is very popular within the LGBTQ plus community. Preying particularly on our young boys. You may have heard of the Monkey app. It's a fun introductory video chat app, randomly matches you up. If you decide you want to talk more, you can. This young 13-year-old girl finally connected with this YouTuber that she was just all about. He was so amazing. I don't know if you know, but this guy hung the moon. He's amazing, right? So she sends a 59-second video. He rates girls how hot they are, then he has them rate back. You know what our young girl wasn't thinking through is the 59-second video that she made. There were 358,830 views. I know what I'm doing. Okay, so actually you don't. And so as parents, as caring adults, we have to kind of lead you through this. You may have heard of TikTok. It used to be known as Musical.ly. It's one of the fastest growing apps out there. This is like a fun little junior high girl app. Hey, we're playing and we're singing, songs and putting them out there. Okay, it's now become an app full of all kinds of horrible things. So I just want to give you a brief insight into this app and how difficult these apps are that we have to pay attention to as parents. Because so little Jessie was 7, and she was probably from your family. Like, the reason you're here on a Saturday not doing something fun, but listening to me, I apologize in advance, is like because you care about your kids. And so this is probably your kid. So she's 7, she's like locked down, safe, everything's good, right? And so she, Mom, I want to play on your phone. Mom, please, Mom. And so she finally gives in, okay, you can play on my phone. Gonna set the oven timer for 15 minutes. I'm in the kitchen, Dad's in the living room, don't do anything stupid. Jessie's 7. She gets on, she creates an account, and here's the result of that. You might not be able to read in the back to read for you. So they become friends. It's 1:54 p.m. This is Jessie over here. She says, hi, how are you? Good, how are you? I'm fine, good. How old are you? 7. How old are you? 9. Cool, send me your photos. Just that quick. Okay. Jessie sends a headshot, looking nice. Send me your pics without your t-shirt. Jessie sends another headshot. Make some pics without t-shirt. I like to see your body without t-shirt. You can almost hear the innocence in our little Jessie's voice as she types these little words. I can't. You can. Make some new pics in the bathroom without clothes. My mom said I can't. Don't tell to anyone. Okay, it's secret between only us. Now timestamp at 2:06. She disappears because Dad walks in the room. Jessie, what are you doing? Why are you on Mom's phone? She said I could. It's okay. Unpacks this process. And here's where we end up. I'm her father. I'm a police officer. We have documented your IP address and location. I recommend that you refrain from any other contact. If it can happen to a family like that quick, so there's not a one of us that should say, can't happen to my church, not my family, not the kids on my teams. We have to get this farm door image in our minds to go, I got to open my eyes and look through the big glass. Because guess what? There's predators looking through the glass on the other side into what our kids are doing. So a teacher asked her 6th graders, what don't your parents know about what you're doing online? They talked about nudity and all kinds of crazy stuff. They talked about a place where it's a place they can share their opinions and frustration. How about we become the kind of intentional parents that let our kids share their opinions and frustrations to us? Because right now the challenge is they're going here first. And it's not these kids these days. No, we own this. This is us. True story, 2 weeks ago, my wife almost literally had to hold me down in a restaurant to keep me from going and confronting 4 families that Doug talked about. We see all the time, like just sitting there like this, and my wife said, Russ, don't do it. She saw it. I wasn't even saying anything. I'm just staring. I'm done eating. I'm just staring. I'm staring him down. I'm trying to get the dad's attention. Like, give him stink eye, right? I'm like, take you down. I know I'm a little guy. I'll throat punch you and run. Like, you are ruining your kids' lives, and what's wrong with you? And it's like, my wife's just like, she can tell. I'm just like, I'm getting slightly worked up. I'm getting a little awkward, uncomfortable. She's like, don't do it, Russ. The girls are here. I'm like, okay. It's a place that'll test suicide. I got done with assembly, a 7th grade girl came walking in and said, Mr. Tuttle, I need to talk to you. I said, sweetheart, what's wrong? So she began to cry. She said, can you please tell me one reason why I should keep living? I said, I can give you 1,000 reasons, but talk to me, what's going on? So she's in 7th grade, and through her tears, she unpacks when she was in 4th grade, a 5th grade boy began to humiliate her and dominate her and convinced her that she didn't take all her clothes off and said, well, how he was going to kill himself. I don't have time to unpack the whole story, but she's a good kid. She didn't want him to die, so she did that. And now what happened is, you know what happened? What happens every time kids share these pictures. They share it. And this 5th grade boy got the picture, and he shared it. And they share it through 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade. This girl was being sexually assaulted online and in person by male predators who were seeing her images. And now she's crying. And in 7th grade, she rolls up her sleeves, and she shows me the cut marks on her arms that started her shoulder, went clear down her wrist. And she was a perfectionist. She'd use a ruler every time she cut. She used a knife and a blade, and she used a ruler. And every single line was in perfect 2 inches, a 1/4 inch apart. And she began to weep and said, "This is the only level of pain I can control my life. What they're doing to my life, I can't control." See, we own this. We own this. It's not these kids these days. This is our little responsibility. I talk about my mental health. For a lot of kids, we're crossing a very dangerous crossroads where it's almost become more important for students to have a lot of internet friends and status and social standing online than friends in real life. That's a problem. So how do we know? Like some of these things our kids are getting involved with. Basically, if they're hiding stuff from us, step up and be a parent. Be the parent. Okay? Because the problem is this. The online sexual predators, the target age range are kids between 11 and 14 years old. There's 3 words I want you to think through: the exploitation of vulnerability. Who's more vulnerable online than our kids in these ages? You know who understands this? Those predators understand this better than we do. They understand the exploitation of vulnerability better than we do. The difference is this: they're looking for vulnerabilities to exploit. We need to be looking for vulnerabilities in our kids so they cannot be exploited. That's the difference. So here's all the wisdom of all the people out there. Here's how to parent, okay? Make sure your children's academic, emotional, psychological, mental, spiritual, physical, nutritional, and social needs are met while being careful not to overly stimulate or stimulate improperly medicate, helicopter, or neglect them as screen-free, processed foods free, GMO-free, negative energy-free, phosphate-free, body-positive, socially conscious, egalitarian, but also authoritative, nurturing but fostering independence, gentle but not overly permissive, pesticide-free, 2-story, multilingual home, permanent cul-de-sac with backyard, 1.5 sibling space, leave 2 years apart, proper do not forget the coconut oil. Are you kidding me? How did we used to parent? Like, okay, in the old days, feed them. Sometimes. Like, if you don't, somebody will. It's going to be fine. Okay, so the reason this church has a parent conference is because it doesn't work this way anymore. It's become incredibly complex. And the issues now are is now we've got our kids who have desires and dissatisfactions. And what I want to help you understand, with both eyes open, that these can be vulnerabilities to be exploited. Whether it's that deep need to be loved, or it's as simple as, I want a new phone. And here's the challenge. Our kids feel like this. No one understands me. Guess what? When you felt like that, no one understood you. You didn't have this little device. They tell me my iPhone 10 has enough technology in this to launch a rocket ship to the moon, or declare to the world that I just chewed a piece of bubble gum. Want to see? So here's why kids feel like they don't understand this. The science of the way God's created our brain is the frontal vortex of our brain takes 219,000 hours of lived life. So when I go to school assemblies, it is one of the funnest things I do is I have kids look at each other and look each other in the eye with empathy, and then tell them this: you're just a half brain. And they do. It doesn't matter if they're elementary age kids, it doesn't matter if they're middle school, it doesn't matter if they're high school. Every single time they look at each other and they say it, and they know what, they die laughing. They bust up laughing. I've never understood this. Over 40,000 kids, they all laugh. I don't get it other than this: they're half brains. It's something we as adults have to understand. These kids these days, okay, part of it is they're gonna make dumb decisions. That's not a crutch they can lean on. We have to parent them and lead them through that. But now, in the context of what we're talking about, it gets really serious, because guess what? Our kids are talking about being lonely. Our kids are talking about how they feel isolated from their community. Our kids are dealing with real issues of the level of depression amongst American teens and tweens got 40% in the last 7 years. The level of suicides got up 20%. I told you I was in small rural communities in Kansas all last week, and I was in a small community where they said since January they've had 12 kids die by suicide this year. That's heartbreaking. I want to desperately develop community of trusted adults that will wrap themselves around our kids. Because the problem is the majority of the time as our kids, what they're talking things online, instead of going to trusted adults, listen, the level of cyberbullying things that kids experience can be just really out of control. That 2nd grade girl who came up with a Tinder account as we did a deeper dive into her life. At 2nd grade, we could pick up all these different aspects where she was in a controlling relationship already in 2nd grade. See, it's not these kids these days. We have to own this as adults. And it's not a guilt thing, it's not a shame thing, it's a let's open our eyes, let's open our eyes, let's open our eyes, let's not look through this little narrow peephole, let's open both eyes and look through the big window. So as advertised, the cola on your sheet, right? So I had an experience in India. I haven't grown up there as a missionary kid. So they have a cola product in India called a Thumbs Up. So a Thumbs Up is not as sweet. It's a little bit sweeter than a Coca-Cola and not quite as fizzy. So have any of you ever chugged a cola product really fast, like a carbonated something? Okay, so I don't know what happens to you when you chug something really fast, but I'm a wuss, so I cried. Like my eyes water, and my nose foams, and somebody feels like I got like a match in my throat, and like I'm on fire. And so I was in India, it was really hot, and if you want to die a slow death, drink tap water in India. Okay, just a little hints. If you want to do that, if you're kind of lean towards that. If you don't die, you wish you could. I was not in the mood to die that day, so I bought this, and so I'm drinking it, and I'm chugging it, like I'm not chugging I even drunk, and so I ended up with a dead cockroach in my mouth. So here's the other part that was advertised called the cockroach. Okay, so I just in case you've never had a dead cockroach in your mouth, it is not a pleasant experience. And so here I am. I'm in the capital city, New Delhi, India, and my nose is foaming, my eyes are watering because I'm a wimp, my throat's on fire, and I'm dry heaving. Okay, so this is the foundational story for our student assemblies. Because guess what? They don't remember. All right, students, set your profiles to private. They're like, shut up. They remember cola cockroach. Okay. My goal is if I can make the adults in the room at a high school assembly or middle school or elementary assembly start to dry heave, I feel like I'm connecting with the kids. Okay. So it's an awesome thing. So I won't gross you guys out about the details, but just so you know, the Indian cockroaches, they have like a really hard back shell. And the way I drank it, the thing was, it was suctioned to my mouth. I could not get this out of my mouth. So I'm like, what in my mouth? I don't know if you've ever dry heaved so hard where you felt like you're gonna cough your toenails out your head, like you could explode out your ears. That's me, downtown capital city, New Delhi, India, and I don't know there's a dead cockroach in my mouth. Okay, so I unpack this in detail with kids because it's something they remember. Just one last thing about cockroaches, I don't want to gross you guys out too much, is that they have like a really soft underbelly because they're really squishy, because that's like where they go potty, and like that's my tongue is touching, right? So okay, so I finally get this cockroach out. Are you gonna be okay? Do I need to just quit? Like you're losing color a little bit, so if this was high school kids, I would be like 2 inches from your face right now making gagging sounds, okay? And we'd be carrying a bucket around, so it's awesome. So as advertised, it's the cola cockroach. Okay, so now in this, I read this in here. There's this guy here today called Doug Fields. So he's a thought leader, communicator, resource provider, author of more than 50 books. In the air, and on it's just amazing, right? You know what? I'm known as the cockroach guy. So when I go to schools and stuff, and I come and they go, dude, I know you. You're the cockroach guy. I'm like, yes, but what's it mean? Because there actually is a point. So we know if we have nothing in our diet but coal, we're not going to be healthy. But maybe it's okay in moderation. This represents our kids' screen time. The average number of hours kids look at a screen today in America is 9 hours a day. So one of our messages is back off that in moderation, because there are predators out there that want to hurt kids. And we've unpacked that in a way that is attractive to kids and is not in a negative way, because I understand it's not these kids these days. We own as adults, we appeal to the hero in kids. So you guys can help us make a difference if you'll deal with this properly. And so the message to kids is, listen, every time you're online, I need you to be a half-brain looking for cockroaches. And we unpack this so that when it happens, I need you to go to the trusted adult in your life. For a lot of our kids that I talk to, the trusted adult is not in home. So we're really hard to build these communities because it's this easy for our kids to kind of go from the fun factor, the cola factor of social media into the danger zone.
Meeting a teen girl online is actually pretty easy. You can go into any chat room and just start talking. Most of the girls are usually so insecure and desperate for it.
Attention from older guys is totally flattering. They're so much more mature and understanding than the guys my age.
Age actually works to my advantage. They like to brag to their friends that they're dating an older guy, so I just play along and pretend I'm really interested.
Interested in the same things I am. You can talk forever and really get to know someone without worrying about looks or whatever. That's the best thing about
Chatting seems unthreatening to them, so they lower their guard. After a while, I start talking about how we're soulmates and how lucky we are to have found each other.
Other people don't understand. I know what I'm doing. If you really care about each other, there's nothing wrong with me.
Meeting them is the goal. Once I get them out of their house, well, that's when things get really interesting.
See, parents, don't freak out and get ticked at your kids because you're actually not arguing with them. You're arguing with a fantasy. You're arguing with her fantasy. You're arguing with his fantasy. And where they're playing this out increasingly, especially as we heard Doug talk earlier today, if we are not intentionally parenting, this is the place they're going to first. And they have to understand that they don't always have a clear understanding who they're communicating with. I hate to unpack this for you as parents, but you need to understand something, that sexting's becoming the new flirting. So I told you at the start, this Catholic school in the metro where they've got these 32 7th grade boys that are actively sharing nudes back and forth, and the parents is like freaking out, doesn't know what to do and how to help, and the progression kind of goes from bad to worse. When kids talk to me, I'm hearing every combo platter you can think of. Guys demanding pics from a girl, girls demanding pics from a guy, guys sending pics to a girl she didn't ask for, girls sending pics to a guy they didn't ask for. I mean, back and forth, this thing is out of control. You know why? Ultimately, because it's a cry for attention. It's a cry for help. And if we're not paying attention to this, if we're not looking at it, if we're so busy either on our own phones or our own lives, or we got one eye closed to this issue and go, oh, they'll be fine. That little girl in that video where they're finishing each other's sentences, she said that I know what I'm doing. We have to lead them through it. Here's a great resource for you. You might want to take a picture of that or jot it down. There's a way kids talk online. So netlingo.com is a great resource to just kind of give you insight into what they're talking about. Netlingo.com. So here's the current top 50. I'm not going to unpack these for you because you're going to notice the sexual nature. Now, I know most of you parents, you think you're a 10, like you're all that, and a bag of chips. In reality, for kids, you're a 9. You're just a 9. So when they're on a screen and you walk into the room, they all they got to do is put a 9, and that means the people they're talking to knows that there's a parent watching, and you become a 99 when you leave the room. But I'm not going to unpack these. So I just want you to see in the top 50, tragically how sexualized so much of this content has become. And again, it's not these kids these days. We have to own this as adults. In my life, and part of the work that I do when it comes down to the criminal element, working cross into this, it's no longer just some kind of exploitation that's now maybe going to lead into sexual exploitation, but potentially now it's a criminal thing called domestic minor sex trafficking. When they say, I want to meet you in real life, or what's your real name, those are red flags every single time. So we teach kids the rhythm of safety. We need you adults to back this up as parents, and be intentionally engaging in their lives online, not with your one eye closed, looking through this farm window, the big window perspective, to communicate some of these basic kindergarten things that kids learn, stranger danger. But here's the reality. Most of what kids are encountering and getting in trouble with is not from complete strangers. It starts with friends. And the point where strangers enters into the way the World Wide Web works, when things get shared, it goes out. So here's one of the things. It's no longer a matter of if your kids are going to encounter this, especially if they have unsupervised time online. When it happens, how are you going to lead them through it? And it used to be block it and delete it. That's incorrect. That's just wrong. You need to block it and save it to report it. We got done with the school assembly. I can name this community. A lot of times I'm just kind of giving you general things, but this one went to the news. So in Hoisington, Kansas. Anybody know where Hoisington, Kansas is? Okay, one person. I did not know, so here's proof that technology is not the enemy, but can create tremendous complexities. Thankful for my phone that took me straight to Hoisington. It is close to Great Bend, if that helps. Probably not. Hoisington, Kansas, small community. I got done with a middle school assembly, and a 7th grade girl comes up and says, oh my, you're so disgusting, that whole cockroach thing, that was gross. But guess what? There's a cockroach in my life. And they begin to unpack what was happening. The next day, this guy is arrested because one brave girl came forward, because we came into some assemblies where we're appealing to the hero. And kids, we're not coming down on kids. Because you know what? This is an adult. We own this. We're not facing the consequences. And this young girl comes forward, and this guy's arrested because one brave girl came forward. The school counselor sent me the front page of this article. He's in jail on a $1.3 million bond. arrested the next day, but 4 more kids came forward after one young girl did. 3 months later, I was in the massive, huge, booming metropolises of Otis and La Crosse, Kansas. Ever heard of them? Yeah, neither. They have a water tower and 3 houses, almost, maybe more. But then kids come from all of these rural areas. You know why? Because of what was happening, infiltrating through. So technology's not the enemy. Don't be scared of technology. As a parent, you don't have to be an expert in technology. You don't have to know every app. But you need to understand this. A couple of years ago, the National Center of Sexual Exploitation was saying that anytime any one of us is online, anytime we're no more than 7 clicks from porn. Last year, the conference I went to before Father's Day, they're saying now we're 5 clicks from porn. It's so easy to find this material. And the problem is this with our kids is as they, listen, they're half brains. Their brains are still developing. It's how God designed it. The earlier and earlier we introduce pornography into their young brains, especially as the frontal cortex is still developing, the addiction to pornography grows like any other addiction. This is why the stat I showed earlier that over 106,000 men in Kansas City, Missouri were online looking to purchase sex from kids. This is the progression. This is the progression. 1 in 5 images of pornography is of a child online. And think through just one porn site. Pornhub, 33.5 billion visits. And now we're seeing in the criminal world of the level of demand for younger and younger kids growing. Our role as parents is, this actually is my issue. And while my kids are saying, I know what I'm doing, we have to help them understand the bigger picture. Because this is where we end up with kids. This is the tragic reality of kids' lives. So if we're not in their lives, if we're not fully involved in their lives, here's the progression of kids. My mom's stupid today, I hate algebra, school lunch sucked. Boom, mic drop. Who liked that? On my 3,472 apps that I'm using that you don't know about because they're hidden in a little thing called another calculator on my phone that you think is just a calculator, but it's actually a hidden site. There's information on that and stuff you're going to download. The next level is a lot more serious because now they're talking about, I'm kind of lonely. I'm depressed. You know the 7th grade girl who wanted to end her life? You know where she learned how to cut? She learned it on TikTok. It's a music app. The next level is our kids go to pornography as an escape. I can't tell you how many students come to me at the end of presentations saying, just for this slide right here, thank you for sharing information. There's other things we share too. I don't have time. Thank you. I had a young boy. He came to me. He said, sir. He said yesterday. It was like an 8 o'clock in the morning assembly. He said yesterday I was sitting in social studies class. He said, and we had a Word document open. He said, in my mind, he said, I didn't see the Word document. I saw the pornography. I was surfing in English class the period before. Wait, kids are surfing porn in school? Yeah. But I thought all the filters were school. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So parent, no. Don't be mad at school. Be an active parent, compassionately educating and empowering your schools about this issue. It's the cockroach factor. And one of the things that motivates me as we go to schools is we tell them, listen, we give them the surveys, and they tell us all the information, but you know what, we educate, we don't just throw information because we want to empower them to make a difference. So all these stories of kids coming up and they're saving each other's lives in a lot of ways by saying, here's what's happening in my life. So one of the things we do at the end of an assembly is we have the kids stand up and they yell, not in my life, not in my school. Not in my future. So they're going to take a personal level of responsibility. They're going to watch out for each other. They're going to continue this through life. So they go, not in my life. Not in my school. Not in my future. Then they yell, cockroach, and they make amazing vomit sounds. It's awesome. Okay? And they go out empowered to make a difference. And so remember Hoisington, where the 7th grade girl came up? And next day, guy's arrested in jail. This is Hoisington. Isn't that awesome? Now look at the screen, and I don't know who they are, but in this audience there are 4 kids who are being sexually assaulted and molested in person and online. and they were empowered to step forward. I promised a school in Kansas that I would show their assembly every single time. This is just one half of the gymnasium. These guys, I love their enthusiasm. This is why I believe in kids. You get them this message. There's a principle that applies. It's God's word, but the truth sets us free. And it doesn't matter where we declare that truth. Check out these kids. I love their enthusiasm. This guy really cracks me up. So you saw some middle schoolers and high schoolers. Watch the littles. This was literally last week in Concordia. Week ago Friday. The littles, grades 1 to 4, completely different style of presentation. Love the enthusiasm of these kids. And down they go. They're out for the count, right? It's awesome. It's amazing. It's good stuff, right? So it's the cockroach factor, because all I want you to remember are 3 words. It's about the exploitation of vulnerability. There's 3 words. I just want you to remember 3 words. It's the exploitation of vulnerability. Because the message to kids is you're half brains, and I need you looking for cockroaches every time you're online. It's the cockroach factor. But you need to back that up the way you need them. So how do we do this? So here's the thing. Don't live in fear. See, God's word says God's not giving us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. This is sound mind development today. This is learning some information. I'm no longer going to have one eye closed, have both eyes open, looking through big window. Big perspective. Okay, everybody in the room, raise your hand. If you're a parent, raise your right hand. Okay, I officially deputize you to be your child's parent first, not their best friend. You're welcome. You've now been deputized. You no longer need to have the pressure to keep up with the Joneses, be your kid's best friend. Parent them. I promise you later in life, you will become best friends. Monitor your own and their social media. On the handout that I gave you, unashamedly, our ministry is an affiliate with Covenant Eyes. Covenant Eyes is one of the best things going out there. They just introduced in the month of August. This is something you can put on your family devices. Every single family device you have, you can put this on there for like $15 a month, okay? Amazing technology. Here's the difference, okay? In this stack that you'll be able to get in just a little bit, there are 20 other items that you can put on your computers for safety reasons. I love Covenant Eyes, number 1. They're a Christ-centered ministry. Number 2, they are no longer just monitoring sites. They monitor the screen. So you can have 2 kids airdropping pictures to each other. It will pick it up. Game-changing technology. Don't ever say anything, not my kid. It's about 3 words, the exploitation of vulnerability. And please understand this, in a national survey, when kids were asked, why won't you talk to your parents about social media, and why are you freaked out about that? They said, because our parents freak out every single time. And do you know why they say that? Because every time they talk to you about that, you freak out. So feel free to freak out on the inside, but be armed with some good information. This is a national plan that's been going for a long time. I really highly recommend this if you have kids who are older, have their own phones. Tell your student, anytime you're in some trouble, text me an X. In that moment, that kid should have 4 trusted adults in their life. They texted X. Whichever adult gets that first, I'm not lying. If my oldest daughter, who's 16, finally just got a phone, if she texts me an X right now, I'm gone. Bye. See ya. I mean, I love you, Corey, but this is more important, my daughter. And I'm gone. And what it means is it's a message to my daughter saying, I don't know what you got into, but I pick up the phone, I call her, and I say, hey, this is Dad. We've got an emergency at home. Where are you at? I'm coming to pick you up right now. There's no responsibility on her. She got in a car with somebody she shouldn't have got into. She's in a situation. I don't care what it is. We drop everything we're doing as an adult, and we go and we pick that kid up. And in that moment, we do not say, how can you be so stupid? I told you not to do this. Okay? You know what that is? That is wrong parenting. Open that big window and do the deep dive and figure out what's going on. And you're going to deal with the consequences later. But this is a great plan. Now, with the caveat, she sends the text and she's in chemistry because she didn't study, and I need out of here. Yeah, no, sister, that ain't working. Okay? Good luck with that plan. Please be careful with your own social media posts. We're dealing with several families right now who are facing exploitative things online because they're posting pictures of their young teenage girls in bikinis on the beach. And they're posting their cute little baby butt naked. You know, it's 3 months old. I got to tell you, the online world is no longer a safe place to engage in this activity. It just is not. It's about 3 words, the exploitation of vulnerability. Please pay attention to this and understand this is a completely countercultural message. And you're going to have to deal with this and understand this, and every family is going to deal with it differently, but whatever kind of a plan you come up with, be consistent. Your kids need to see consistency in you. If you've got a plan, don't waffle on that plan. Be consistent. And remember, hello, I just deputized you. You own their device. It's yours. I mean, unless you've got an independently wealthy 8-year-old who buys their own stuff, then great. You know, but I hear this from parents all the time. Well, I'm really afraid to look at my kids' passwords because I'm afraid I'm invading their privacy. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Number one, it's not true. Okay, I'll give you that. You want to believe that? Here's the real answer. If you don't invade their privacy, I promise you there are predators trying to. So we got to do this. It's no longer a matter if our kids are going to experience things online when they're unsupervised. It's when it happens, how are we going to lead them through it? How are we going to guide them through it? Not in a way that pushes them away from us as the almighty adults. I told you I would be so dumb. You know, no, this is not our kids. We own this. It's easier to teach than unteach. Start young, okay? You're only as safe as your stupidest friend. It's the truth. It applies to you, it applies to your kids. So you don't want something shared? Don't share it. Because I guarantee you somebody's going to do it. Okay? So you ready to get radical? Here's a really radical plan. I got to get my kid a cell phone and keep them safer. Okay, so there's a movement out there, and it started online. It's not a bad thing. Technology's not the enemy. The movement's called Wait Till 8. And it's not wait till your kid's 8 years old, wait till 8th grade. And when they're in 8th grade, then we're going to give them some devices with some really solid guidelines. And we got some of those in the material I'm going to pass on to you. So here's to get radical. Control text groups only. I have to have all these apps to stay in touch with my friends. Okay, really? Honestly? So if it's really for your kid only about staying in touch with your friends, guess what you can do? You can do what my daughter does. She has several text groups, and they're like the original Mickey Mouse Club. So this is the girls like from kindergarten through church and soccer and Girl Scouts and on down to 10th grade, right? So they're like 11 buddies. And my daughter knows I look at everything on that phone. And guess what? Because she knows it's not very often anymore I have to look at the phone. They can stay in control through text groups. It's not foolproof, but it's a lot safer than a lot of the apps. No technology in any bedroom ever. Well, how am I going to wake up in the morning? Dude, they sell these things. It's amazing. They're called alarm clocks. If you really want to go retro, you can get carpal tunnel. You can wind this thing, and there's like this little clanger thing. It goes between it, and they're like, I promise you, will wake you up. Okay? So remember 100 years ago, we had like 900-foot phone cords on the phone that was only in the kitchen? That's still a great place for our cell phones, because it will still wake you up, and you can still go down there and answer it. And guess what? Your cell phone cord goes like thousands of miles. Really cool. Be sure your student knows you are willing to trust them until you give them a reason not to. Don't start negative with your kids regarding social media online. Start positive. I believe in you. I trust you. When they make a mistake, lead them through it. Continue to educate yourself to stay safer. You may need to start a parent discussion group. Primarily, never forget this. It's always about the exploitation of vulnerability. If you will grasp these 3 words and understand that you can look through a different window, you got a shot at making this better. This is a stack of resources I have provided for you. Say the 3 things I gave you, there's just little things that you can text. It didn't pop it. Did I bump it? I bumped it. Sorry. There's all these resources. So here's a lot of phone numbers you may need to know about. Here's practical helps for parents. There's a cell phone contract between you and your students. There's 20 different items you can use besides Covenant Eyes for your kids. All the apps I talked about and more. There's a list of those that I went through quickly. There's also a list of today's most dangerous teen apps of 2019 that you're probably going to be interested in if you're really going to grasp the exploitation of vulnerability and understand why would I want my kids to have this. There's a little handout here, your kids and technology, a parent safety guide. Really, really good information. There is an article here on why I refuse to get my kids a smartphone until a certain age. There's a whole parent resource thing on internet safety. There's a digital DNA kit. Every password your kid has, you should know it, and you can record it in a digital DNA kit. So you know what's going on. Here's the help guide on how to talk to your kids about Pornography. Here's some graphics on sextortion and what's happening in our kids' lives and why we have to be so super careful about this. Here's 11 stats every parent needs to know if you're going to be a proactive parent. You want to get into the criminal aspect of this and help educate your kids about child sex trafficking? Here's some ways to talk about that. Here are some signs about it, how to keep your kids safe from traffickers online. Here are some mental health facts we need to understand as parents. Because if we're really serious about the exploitation of vulnerability, some of the vulnerabilities are listed here. And here's 5 things teenagers wish their parents knew about pornography. Because a lot of our understanding is this. And you shouldn't go looking for porn to figure out what your kids are looking at. There's a lot of experts out there that tell us everything we need to know. And finally, 3 secrets to porn and you and our kids. Text Be Alert to that number. And all those resources are there for you that you can use as needed. I have 3 minutes left. Do you have any questions? So this is normal. My wife says I am a professional depressor of adults. And hopefully it's not me personally. Hopefully it's the content, because like we feel so overwhelmed. It's like drinking out of a fire hose. I just want to encourage you, the flip side of this is when you will have these honest conversations with your students, they may initially give you all the body language and that initial pushback, but you are providing boundaries that they know that they need. They're not going to want to verbalize that, but they know intuitively that they need these boundaries, and they appreciate it. And so, there's 3 words. Do you know the 3 words that I need you to remember? Because you can't leave the room unless you can say it back to me. We're going to lock the door. Yeah, exploitation of vulnerability, if we will grasp that, and then we will keep that farm door image that we started with, no longer looking through the people. Big window perspective. All right?